Hello everybody, and welcome to my first Paladins champion review. Today I will be reviewing our newest flanker, Vatu the Shadow. If you're looking for the short version, I find him to be really fun, but I have a few grievances with his kit. Let's begin with his primary fire, the kunai. Posting a 0.9 second fire rate, Vatu launches 3 of these in an arc, dealing 300 damage each. The kunai have an ammo count of 5 and have a 1.15 second reload time. On top of firing in an arc, the kunai are slightly affected by gravity and have damage fall off. In fact, Vatu is the only champion outside of the frontline class to have damage fall off on a projectile. This actually feels terrible. I understand that the kunai are meant to be used as a close-range tool, especially when comboed with Vatu's insane mobility. But having non-existent poke damage really hurts when you are trying to close the gap. You already have the handicap of dealing with the spread and gravity of the projectiles at range. So why do they deal reduced damage on top of that? You know how high-level players say that Moji has no poke? Well, Vatu has non-existent poke. Moji at long ranges can deal 300 damage every 0.7 seconds. Vatu can deal a pathetic 150 damage every 0.9 seconds at long range. Yikes. My only other grievance with the primary fire is the fact that every one of Vatu's abilities interrupts the reload. It is so frustrating to get the drop on an enemy after going crazy with your dashes, only to be stopped by a reload. Besides those issues, I really enjoy using the kunai. I like the slow and steady approach to these with the slow fire rate. It's a nice change of pace from most of the run and gun flanks. These feel like a more responsive version of Maeve's daggers, and I don't feel limited in my 1v1s unlike other flankers. With other flankers like Vora, I feel threatened when going against certain champions, most notably the frontlines. Even though Vatu shouldn't be dueling with the enemy frontline, I feel confident enough in the primary fire and the dashes to engage that fight with them. And before I forget, there's a technique to reduce the spread of the kunai. The spread of the kunai will get smaller the further up and down you look, so ideally, you want to drop on top of your opponents to hit them with those pinpoint shots. Supposedly, you could also flick your aim to keep a low spread while looking straight ahead, but my aim is already shaky enough as is, so I don't use that tech. Next are the Shadow Bombs. Vatu will throw 3 sticky bombs that deal 10 damage on impact and deal 200 damage each after a 0.3 second delay. If you hit all 3 of these, you total 630 damage on your target. The bombs have a 10-second cooldown. Based on that description, the Shadow Bombs are actually really lame. However, they're not terrible. The explosion radius on the bombs is 10 units, which is just 1 unit shy of Bomb King's primary fire. Because of this, the bombs can be used to get some AoE damage on clumped up enemies, or enemies around corners. The best use for the bombs in my opinion is when comboed with the kunai. If you open with a set of kunai for 900 damage, then follow up with the 630 damage from Shadow Bombs, you can start fights with a fast 1530 damage. Throw in one more 900 damage primary fire for 2430 damage, and most squishies will die before they can react. One other tech with the Shadow Bombs is to use these as your poking tool. Since they have no arc or fall off damage, they can be used safely at range. Be mindful with this tech, since you will lose your combo potential for 10 seconds. Overall, the Shadow Bombs are aight. Definitely the lamest part of Vatu's kit, but they do their job. Before we move on, I wanted to bring up the animation for the bombs. I myself don't have a problem with it, but I saw one comment on the ability breakdown video, saying that it looks like a homeless person asking for spare change, and I can't unsee it now.
Excuse me, sir. Could you spare a crystal for a poor flank?
Moving on with Vatu's Ambush. This ability allows you to target enemies to teleport to. When you teleport, you will deal 200 damage in a 20 unit radius. After your initial teleport, you have 4 seconds to teleport to another target if desired. This ability has an 11-second cooldown. One important thing to note about this ability is that there is a slight delay before you actually teleport. Due to the delay, if the target dashes away, you will still teleport next to them. This is one of the few times where I am actually in favor of an intentional ability delay, as it makes the ambush more consistent. Despite its name, however, ambush is an ability you want to avoid using as an engage tool, at least against bursty targets, as many times plopping your 1900 HP self next to a target is certain death. The best times to use the ambush are when you need to chase a retreating target, or if you desperately need to proc the damage reduction card. The concept of ambush is actually really cool, and when used properly, it will give you the edge against your enemies, though I don't recommend using this off of cooldown. When used incorrectly, it's dangerous, super loud to the enemy, oftentimes will get you killed, or put you in a position where you have to waste your dashes to get out. Or, you know, throw you off the map. Last of Vatu's abilities, and the one single-handedly boosting his fun factor tenfold, is the dash. Despite having the lamest name possible, this ability is super strong and super fun. The dash has 3 charges, and lets Vatu dash 40 units in whichever direction he is moving, while reducing his damage taken by 60% during this time. The skill has a cooldown of 5 seconds, allowing Vatu to, you know, be mobile like a flanker should. I really don't understand why so many flankers have their only movement skill on such long cooldowns. Anyways, this is one of the few movement skills where you don't have to turn your camera in the direction you want to move it. The dash will move you in whatever direction you are already moving in. This amazing aspect of the ability allows you to keep your aim focused on your target, which helps you in securing kills. I love Vatu's dashes. You have amazing mobility and awesome mix-ups. Between the low cooldown and having 3 charges, the dashes really help Vatu to feel like a proper flanker. If you're like me and enjoy mobility in this game, you will love this ability. My one issue with the dash is that there is a notable delay after you use the ability, in which case you cannot use another dash. This makes the act of chaining dashes together to be a bit awkward. I understand the fear of Vatu's mobility being too strong, but intentional ability delays suck, and I will never stop saying that. Wrapping up the abilities is Vatu's ultimate Nightfall, in which Vatu begins charging an attack. When released, Vatu will dash through enemies dealing 800 damage and stunning them for 1.25 seconds. The ultimate's damage and stun are unaffected by charge time, as that only affects the distance traveled. Also, while charging you are immune to crowd control. Initially, I thought this ultimate was very weak. Now though, I think it's a great ultimate and actually one of the better ones in the flank class. This ultimate is super versatile with many uses, swaying unfavored 1v1s in your favor, interrupting key abilities from the enemy like a con shield, counter-ulting incoming CC, and one of my favorites is charging the ultimate from behind friendly cover to allow for a big stun to aid your team in a fight. All of these points are exaggerated by the fact that the ultimate charges pretty quickly. In conclusion, Nightfall is a very fun and useful ultimate, which is a nice change of pace for the flank class. Next, we're going to skim through Vatu's loadout cards. Gathering Shadow feels mandatory in any build. Having the damage reduction when using ambush helps the ability to not be a death sentence. Also, I think the damage reduction stacks, making it even stronger. Infiltration. Good healing card, but I only recommend this if you're going for a dedicated ambush build. Retribution is probably one of the weakest cards I've ever seen in this game. Ambush does 200 damage. What good does increasing its damage range do? Shadow's Perch is actually quite useful at level 3 or higher. Like Infiltration, I only suggest it if you're going for a dedicated ambush build. Contemplation is a very unique card. With each level, the healing increases, but the time to receive that full heal increases as well. At level 1, you will heal for a burst of 100. Meanwhile, at level 5, you will heal for 140 healing per second over 2.5 seconds for 350 total. Deadly Dash. A fun concept, but in a serious build, I think it's a wasted slot. Vatu's ultimate already charges pretty fast. Extraction. The speed buff is great, and I think the effect stacks with itself. Night Watcher. I haven't touched this card much, but I think it has great potential. When capped out, if you hit all 3 bombs, you will take 7.5 seconds off the dashes. Without Chronos, this will give you 1.5 dashes back. Assassin's Tools. I use this as a filler in my main deck. The damage reduction is stronger than that of Gathering Shadow, but oftentimes you are in a safer position when using the stickies versus the ambush. Outnumbered is actually Vatu's only ammo card. Use this if the reload interruption on all of Vatu's abilities annoy you, I guess. Shadow's Gaze. Another weak healing card to add to the list. Not even worth using when capped out. Shattered Worlds is completely pointless once we get into Vatu's talents. Final Sight. Unless you're using the Omnipresence talent, why would you want to use your ambush when at low health? This card would be much better if it reset the cooldown of dash instead. Memento Vivero. It scales lower than most HP cards, and it's also bugged. at least a level 2 version. You will have 1979 HP instead of 1980. Still, bonus health is always useful. Shadow Garrett. Fun concept, much like Deadly Dash. Unless you're doing a fun ultimate spam build, I don't recommend this. Tranquility. Another pointless card. One I was initially very excited for. When capped out, you can just barely jump over your opponent's head, if you're standing right next to them. Which is pointless since the dash already has you covered on that front. If the card scaled better, I think it could be viable. As of right now though, it is a legitimate waste of loadout points. With Vatu's cards, they are hit or miss with no in-between. Some cards like Contemplation and Gathering Shadow feel necessary, while cards like Retribution and Tranquility are sim levels of trash. Wrapping up, we got Vatu's talents. Starting with the default talent, Omnipresence. Ambush gains an additional charge and can now be used on allies. The main gimmick with this talent is being able to teleport to allies, which allows the ambush to be used as an escape tool rather than an engage. Alternatively, it allows you to be even more risky with your ambush attacks. Chain 2 ambushes on enemies and then use your last one to retreat to your support in the backline. A lot of people critique this talent for being garbage, but I don't think it's as useless as people say. That being said, I think it needs a little nudge up. I have two ideas. One is letting the ambush abandon line of sight requirements when in a short range. And my preferred one is removing the range limit on your teleport and allowing you to hold the teleport for up to 2 seconds before activation. One strategy that I feel this talent should excel at is group dives with your teammates. Oftentimes though, teleporting to a teammate with a channeled movement skill will leave you stranded, or throw you off the map. Oh! Giving Vatu the ability to hold his ambush until the opportune time will be an amazing quality of life buff for this talent. Next is Unerring. Inara. Increase the explosion radius of shadow bombs by 5 units and they now home to enemies. Auto-aim bombs. Because we needed another champion with long-range auto-aim. Okay, no, actually, I think this talent is garbage. Especially when compared to Vatu's other talents. If you need to rely on auto-aim to deal damage while playing Vatu, then in my opinion you shouldn't play him, because his primary is super punishing if you can't aim properly. Another issue with the homing bombs is that they will target the closest enemy to them, which means that in clumped up fights, you can't thread the needle to tag an enemy support in the backline, and instead you will damage a frontline who will just laugh the 600 damage off. The only useful aspect about this talent is the increased AoE, but I don't think it's worth using for just that. Honestly, I think the auto-aim should be booted and replaced with a different mechanic, but maybe this talent just isn't for me. Last up, we have Vatu's best talent by far, Enveloping Shadows. Hitting an enemy with a kunai reduces your cooldowns by 15%. So just by hitting your shots, you get to have your crucial abilities up more often. 15% off means you get 0.75 seconds off on the dashes, 1.5 seconds on the stickies, and 1.65 seconds off on the ambush. This talent is amazing. It rewards good aim and allows you to keep those ability chains going. I hope that instead of nerfing this talent, the Paladins devs try to bring Vatu's other two talents up to the speed of this one. And that's my Vatu champion review. Overall, really fun champion and I can't wait to learn more strategies with him. What do you guys think about Vatu? Let me know down below. This was also my first champion review video, so let me know if you would like this to become a series with each new champion release. Don't forget to clap that like button and laser down that sub button. Snatching the bell is also a great way to stay in the loop. As always, I'm YellowNinja, and peace.